Welcome to Off Screen, Let's Get Cinematic. I'm Van Connor.
And I'm Becks Perfect, and this is your 7-day guide to everything movies. Boom.
So, Becks, how's lockdown treating you? It's been like week 90 or something?
Week 157 more like. It's fine, the weather helps. There's been some great stuff that you can watch, on TV as well as on movies, so I've been keeping busy. But I tell you what, it's the screen time that is getting me. My eyes are feeling like they are no longer knowing how to focus. So, I'm having to take a few more walks now that we're allowed, just to make sure that I can see what's going on in the distance and not just on my TV screen.
I can absolutely sympathise, and of course, it's all about entertainment on our home screens right now, as the cinemas continue to stay closed. Interesting bit in the news this week about that is that Christopher Nolan's Tenet has proven something of a controversial, potential controversy maker, in that apparently they're not budging on that release date, but they are placing a contingency on it, according to reports, that they will not release Tenet, which is, I think, the 10th or the 17th of July, depending on the country you're in. They will not release it unless 80% of cinemas are open. And if it doesn't open, if it underperforms, another report suggests the ripple effect will shove blockbuster tentpoles back to the fall, November, Christmas kind of a time. So, Bex, we could be looking at our TV screens for a long time, dear.
Yes, we could. And you know what? Those days of Mondays and Tuesdays screenings and those lovely cinemas only feel like an even longer way off. What a shame. But you know what? We've got to do what's right for us. We've got to do what keeps us all safe. Yep. So if that's the way it's got to go, it's the way it's got to go for now.
Darn tootin'. And you know what? Speaking of those amazing screening room experiences that we've had, there is one film we'll get to in our selection of films being made available on digital this week that I know you and I had a very soulful and wonderful time in a screening room in very recently, one of our last films together. We'll talk about that in a moment. Let's first talk about this. Is coming to digital. These are all coming to digital on Monday, May the 25th. So this coming Monday, and these are three films that I think are fairly high profile. They were all fairly buzzy. One of them was almost entirely ignored at the Oscars, which wounded me personally and relates to our wonderful experience in the screening rooms. But let's start by talking about The Lighthouse. Did you have the pleasure of The Lighthouse, Mademoiselle?
I didn't actually, and I know this is another move for Robert Pattinson to kind of secure himself as a serious actor. I heard that this is nothing but bonkers. This is men in a lighthouse going completely insane. I mean, sounds right up your street.
What you gonna do? Will you kill me? Will you? Will you kill me like you done that gold? I did! Liar! You murdering dog! 'Twas ye what changed the wind on us. 'Twas ye what damned us, dog. 'Twas ye. Will you do what you wished you'd done to old Winslow? Will you best me then? For Winslow were right. Thomas, you're a dog. A filthy dog! A dog!
I will say, and as that clip will demonstrate, this film was a lot funnier before lockdown, okay? It was, honestly. Two men in a confined space slowly losing their marbles was funnier before I spent 2.5 to 3 months in a flat with my dear flatmate and today's birthday boy, Mr. Daniel Savory. By the way, shout out to our mutual friend, Mr. Rob Yeomans. It's his birthday today.
Oh, happy birthday.
Today. But The Lighthouse, by Robert Eggers. I mean, this is black and white, 4:3. I think it's even smaller than 4:3 ratio. It is rooted in the horror genre. It's rooted in Edgar Allan Poe. I think this started life as a Poe adaptation. Really bonkers, great performances from both Pattinson and Willem Dafoe. When does Willem Dafoe not deliver? You're a dog! A dog!
I love imagine him like an angry pirate. Like, he just does something like that really well. And also, it's really nice to know that The Lighthouse has essentially become a documentary now. So it's just really
Yeah, the Lighthouse, 12 Monkeys, Contagion, and Outbreak. Who saw these things becoming sort of relevant sociological dramas?
Whoever created them are just fortune tellers,
Exactly. But speaking of things that relate to climates of the world, and this is one that we had a really incredible screening of, you and I believe we shared this with Jon Snow from Channel 4 News.
We did.
And it was Queen and Slim, one of our last screenings together.
Yeah.
It's finally hitting digital. You were a big fan of this.
Oh gosh, I loved this because it's like your ultimate modern day Bonnie and Clyde story. It's beautifully acted by Jodie Comer-Smith, if I've pronounced her name. That's right.
I believe that was right.
Yes, and also my main man on the big screen, Daniel Kaluuya. I absolutely adore the choices that he makes as an actor. He is just phenomenal. And this film is like a piece of art from start to finish. It's got an incredible story. It's got an amazing way of showing you how the social media can blow up a scenario and turn you into a hero of the people, but also an enemy of the state.
You're a black man that killed a cop and then took his gun.
I'm not a criminal.
You are now.
I just want to go home. And I want to see my family.
If you turn yourself in, you will never see them again. All we can do is go forward. There is nothing back there for us. Please. Let's just keep going.
Jodie Turner-Smith. I was thinking of Jodie Comer as well.
Yeah, I was thinking, that's definitely Killing Eve, isn't it?
Yes, it definitely is. But it's because that's on again at the minute. That's why you've made that mistake, because she's everywhere at the moment.
And she's also been touted as the new Furiosa.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, so...
I heard this. That's insane.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. I think I was reading that news article yesterday, and it's just kind of subliminally sat there in my mind. But Jodie Turner-Smith, congratulations on your new baby. As she was doing the press tour for Queen and Slim, she was
I did not know that.
sporting a beautiful baby bump. Yep, her and Joshua Jackson have welcomed a lovely little baby. So
Is she Joshua Jackson's lady?
his wife. Yes.
His what? Do you know what? He picks the
better get up on your...
Joshua Jackson has, Joshua Jackson's game is tight, yo.
Yeah, I mean,
really is.
Look, all I can say is lucky lady.
Lucky boy.
Yeah, there we go. We agree on something. I love this film. You love this film. We ended up in tears at the end of this film.
Oh, we wept.
We did.
We wept.
Do you know what? But I think we probably wept a few months later as well, or a few weeks later, when we saw that it absolutely did nothing across award season. It's a travesty.
Nothing. Well, like you said about the Bonnie and Clyde thing, I think it does the Bonnie and Clyde thing on the one hand, but it also does some really biting social commentary at the same time as regards the attitude to race in America and certain cultural attitudes and certain tolerances and ignorances and discriminations. And I think it's a really phenomenal film. Like I said, we watched this with Jon Snow, and that kind of made the film for us. I think he really loved that film.
He did, and he was not the person you'd expect to see going to watch this with a bunch of journos. I think there's probably 10 of us in the room, and he just comes in.
A 4-letter word come out of Jon Snow's mouth several times that I never expected to see.
But we can reaffirm he is like one of the nicest guys in telly. He is
he's lovely.
A delight that wears a gorgeous velveteen suit, shall we say.
That man is so cool. I got a bro hug from him afterwards. Yeah. That's how much we all bonded over this film. But let's talk then about another one. I thought this was really moving. This reduced me to rubble. This comes with a certain cultural barrier as regards how much you know Mr. Rogers, Fred Rogers and Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And it's, of course, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, starring Tom Hanks as Fred Rogers. It's the story of the journalist Lloyd Vogel writing the article in which it's an article on heroes in which he interviews and profiles Fred Rogers.
This piece will be for an issue about heroes. Do you consider yourself a hero?
I don't think of myself as a hero. No, not at all.
What about Mr. Rogers? Is he a hero?
I don't understand the question.
Well, there's you, Fred, and then there's the character you play, Mr. Rogers.
You said it was a play at the plate. Is that what happened to you?
I'm here to interview you, Mr. Rogers.
Well, that is what we're doing, isn't it?
Now, Hanks makes this, I think, definitely.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's a beautiful performance. If that cultural barrier, I suppose, is absolutely right. I remember talking it through with you, Van, and kind of saying, I didn't really know who Mr. Rogers was, but you were like, oh my goodness, I remember him. So you enjoyed this almost 2 or 3 times more than I did. Not to say that I didn't enjoy it.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Because of that connection. But what I found was that it was just really nice to be able to learn something new about an icon of children's TV, genuinely a very, very nice, well-loved man. And it's a lovely, gorgeous, gentle film. And again, a fantastic performance, not only from Tom Hanks, but also Matthew Rhys too.
Yes, Matthew Rhys, definitely. Also, I mean, just want to single out as well before we close, Marielle Heller, who wrote and directed this as well, gave us Diary of a Teenage Girl, which I'm a huge, huge fan of. And wonderful style to this film where they use claymation, they use small toy replicas of the cities for the cityscape
very
scenes,
retro.
establishing shots. Very wonderful film. So you've got three very different, very interesting ones there. You've got The Lighthouse, which I don't think is going to be the most amusing film if you're enjoying a kind of similar lockdown
literally
situations
imitating life.
to me. Yeah, Queen and Slim, which I think everyone should watch.
100%.
It's a phenomenal
Yeah.
film. And A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, which I think we were both very charmed by.
And we're back, and again, once more on your small screen. But this time, it is not movies that are made for cinema, bringing it down to the small screen, but it's actually movies that are on your telly box. So your free view, you're watching at your own leisure, and we've got your whole week ahead. So we're kicking off with Saturday with a teen movie that I have not watched in years, but have absolutely grown up loving. This is
I bet.
The Craft, 5-star, 11:25 p.m. Fairuza Balk. This is Nev Campbell. This is witchcraft in high school, the coolest way of accessorizing your uniform, and the best way to summon up all of those demons. This is the film.
You know, before we play the clip, we should point out this is a little, because you may well know this, there are some people who don't know. The Craft came out at a very, very specific time in 90s pop culture, and it came out just before, I think it was about a year to 18 months before Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Right.
Which, of course, then brought with it, in turn, a ripple effect of certain supernatural shows. Rather like the X-Files had 2 or 3 years before, that had brought with it a wave of pop culture things that had to deal with the occult and the extraterrestrial and things like that. The Craft is arguably the focal point of a certain subset of 90s supernaturally tinged fiction that's still going on today and leads all the way to things like Twilight and then through Supernatural and things like that. And there's a very, very telling thing that it influenced that you will notice if you listen to the background song in this clip.
Sarah, looking for someone? No. Some of these football make their girlfriends come and watch them practice as if it's interesting.
Yeah, like a girlfriend over there. Chris Hooker.
I don't even know him.
Nancy's sorry about what happened in biology. And she's mean to everybody, so don't take it personally.
You're Nancy. Ah, she's Nancy. I'm Bonnie, and that's Rochelle.
Hi, I'm Sarah.
Yeah, we know who you are.
Do you want to go for coffee?
No, I can't. I gotta get home. My dad's waiting for me.
You can make something up.
Of course, it's that old Smiths classic, It's How Soon Is Now, which would wind up going on to become the theme song to Charmed in 1998, a series which I'm sure you've had some passing familiarity with.
I did love, almost as much as I love, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, but let's not go into that. This is, for all those reasons you should be watching The Craft, but... For my reasons to watch The Craft is it just proves again the 90s was just the coolest decade ever, and
it was a real staple of sort of teen goth culture, wasn't it, around the time? Like, it influenced a lot of mainstream elements of goth culture. It made sort of fledgling B and C-list stars out of Fairuza Balk. Nev Campbell would go on to ascend later on with a film that we are going to talk about shortly. She would ascend higher through the Hollywood ranks. I'm trying to think, is it what's her name, who went on to star in The Mentalist?
Robin Tunney is in this as well.
Robin Tunney, went on to star in The Mentalist several years later. She became a huge TV star on that for like 6 years. It's a very influential film in terms of what it means. I think it's been rebooted or sequelized.
No, leave it, because it's not going to be dated. It's so brilliant, and it allows people who feel a little bit left out and a little bit different in school to embrace who they are. And that's what I really loved about this movie. It wasn't your Clueless, which was all about the cliquey, top end of the social spectrum. This is for the outcasts, and I loved that.
Did you do you have fond memories of Skeet Ulrich as the heartthrob in this?
Yeah, I do. And and Skeet Ulrich's shown up in Riverdale most recently.
Yeah, he's just quit. I was reading this morning. He's quit that apparently because, and this is the quote, he was bored creatively. Imagine boring Skeet Ulrich creatively.
But
really?
Also, imagine what's going to pay your bills now, mate.
The residuals from As Good As It Gets and Scream. That's where.
Yeah, Skeet Ulrich, honestly. Get some perspective there, mister. Anyway, let's move on because there is a big film that I think is quite seminal for you from your sort of young 90s, teenage kind of years as well.
I thought for you as well.
Well, I'm going to surprise you with this one. I go even further back on the format of choice, but this is Sunday night. Sunday afternoon, in fact. This is Space
afternoon,
Jam.
yeah.
Yeah, Space Jam, ITV2, 1:20 p.m. Now, we've got LeBron James talking about a sequel about this and, you know, whether or not they're going to
happening.
It's happening. Yeah, he's announcing things like on his Instagram about this. So sports fans, this is definitely one for you, isn't it, Van?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Because it's primarily viewed, I think, by people who haven't seen it as a sports film. But anyone who knows about it knows that it's the sort of sports element of it is almost incidental. So the plot, if you're not familiar, is aliens want to basically take all the Looney Tunes characters and use them as a sort of living museum to Looney Tunes characters, basically in a theme park. And the only way the Looney Tunes characters can find to barter for their freedom is to challenge these aliens to a basketball game, utilising the talents of an abducted Michael Jordan, who at this point in his career was going through that weird moment where he decided he was going to give it up and become a baseball player for reasons that are either bonkers or have to do with gambling charges, depending on which urban legend you believe. I'll tell you what, I'll give you a little sample of the sort of wacky, almost Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but a little younger tone that they really go for with this.
Look, I want to help, but I haven't played basketball in a long time. My timing's all off.
We'll fix your timing. Look at our facilities. We've got hoops. We've got weights. We've got balls. Whoa!
Dude, this place is a mess.
Meth? You're worried about a little meth? There's nothing here a little spit shine wouldn't fix. Spit shine!
So lots of spitting jokes, and this is the movie, of course, that introduced Lola Bunny as well, and sexually confused an entire generation of like 12-year-old boys. But Look, Bill Murray's in there, Wayne Knight's in there. It's a great movie.
I know loads of people love this, and this is a movie that, as people have grown up, they've always referenced, and it's just like that kind of cult hit as well, which is why we're seeing a sequel, 25 years later, I think.
I will just say, actually, I've just said it was a great movie. In actuality, sorry, I should clarify, Space Jam is not a great movie. It's not even actually a particularly good movie, but it's so nostalgically viewed that you sort of look back on it now as this sort of treasure trove of mid-90s cross of when Pepsi commercials could define an entire movie and things. It's very much a representation of what Hollywood was in the summer of 1996, just before CG blockbusters like, for instance, Independence Day, things like that, became the norm. You know, those were still very few and far between. They hadn't changed the industry yet, and this is very much how capitalism used to work in mainstream blockbuster cinema, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you know what? The only reason why I didn't really watch this was I wasn't kind of into basketball at the time. It was like a boys' fun movie. And to be honest, I was just so in love with Who Framed Roger Rabbit that I didn't think any other sort of part animation, part live action could actually live up to that. So I kind of just kept rewatching that instead.
Well, that's it as well, because you and I are apparently millennials. We are, Roger Rabbit is sort of our version of this. Those slightly younger than us, I think, who are now referred to as Gen Z or whatever, for them, Space Jam is exactly that. And you know what? Fair play to them. I can see the appeal. It works for me. I still have the Marvin the Martian little basketball game that sits on my action figure shelf. I'm very fond of. Great movie. Check it out.
Absolutely.
I think good time for the family. The whole family will enjoy that.
There we go. So, moving on to start your next week, we have Kong Skull Island, ITV2, 6:40 p.m. I actually really enjoyed this when this came out. I remember catching it in the cinema. I like the idea of a Kong movie as well. I like to see how that gets reinvented, how it gets changed. It's fine. It does exactly what it says on the tin. It got a little bit of a mixed reception, though. Am I right?
I mean, a little bit mixed. I think it became more of a fan hit than intended, but critics weren't actually that harsh on it. This was Jordan Vogt-Roberts' sort of reimagining of the Kong legend, designed to fit into the Godzilla universe that had begun in 2014. So, we had Godzilla King of the Monsters after this. We've got Godzilla vs. Kong next year as well to come. And this is, of course, chapter 2 of that 4-film saga. And this is, of course, the Vietnam era.
Yeah.
A bunch of soldiers take a bunch of scientists to Skull Island, in search of mythical MacGuffin A, that will help them achieve mythical quest B, and of course they meet Kong and a bunch of monsters along the way.
Yeah, you smell that? That's death.
What the hell is this place?
This is what's left of Kong's parents.
I've taken enough photos of mass graves to recognize one.
The crash site's just on the other side of this valley. We'll cross through and make it to the highest point west.
This place is a real no-no, sir.
We need to be going to the north side right now.
And you welcome to do that, my man. By yourself. I'm not leaving Jack out there. Now, who's with me?
We can make it.
You're mighty right we can make it. Now, stay sharp. Keep an eye out.
I've only been here 28 years. What do I know?
Hell of a cast on this, you gotta admit.
Yeah, it's amazing cast, but also the cinematography on it and I suppose the effects really live up to it as well. So it'd be interesting. We obviously saw it on the big screen. I think it will do fine on the small screen as well. I think, enough time has passed anyway. So if you've caught it in the cinema, you may want to revisit this one again. But just everything going for it is really strong. So I really enjoyed it. Don't worry too much about the mixed reviews on this. Just go and have a bit of escapism and a bit of fun that something like Kong will bring to you.
And of course, let's not forget, if you need further motivation, it has got, Tom Hiddleston in tight trousers running around the jungle. I'm sure there's more than a few people in the world that would very much enjoy that for them.
Of all of the cast, that's who you specifically bring up.
I think he's sexier in this than Brie Larson is. I'm just going to come out and say it. That is a handsome man.
Okie dokie.
And we're back on the couch with you for some Freeview action. So on to Tuesday then. Shall we have some legit action? Shall we go a bit Angelina bullet curving action? Because that sounds like a bit of fun.
Yeah, let's do that. I mean, it's something that you may have wanted for a while. Sorry.
You are the worst.
I'm going lockdown crazy, aren't I? ITV4, 11:20 p.m. Now, this is an odd pairing in my mind. Angelina Jolie and James McAvoy. I think there might be a height discrepancy between the two of them here.
There's also Morgan Freeman in there, who's really going to confuse you, particularly in the third act of this, because you just look at this something. What? Like, why is Morgan saying these things?
The only thing I remember about this film is the poster. I just remember seeing the two of them on this poster, and I never actually got round to watching this. So, what is this movie about? Because all I just remember is the cast.
This is a nasty, grisly comic book action based on a series of comics by Mark Millar, sort of very known comic personality. This is the story of a young man who lives a sort of menial life. He has a muck job in an office, and he discovers that his father, his recently murdered father, was a member of an organization known as the Fraternity, an elite group of assassins who can bend bullets, defy physics, all through convoluted means. They get their orders from a magical loom. This is far less silly than it sounds. I'll give you a little snippet of the sort of pacing and tone of this. It's daft, but it's fun daft.
Oh my god, what the just happened? Please drive faster. Please drive faster. Please understand that I care about my life. I don't know what you did to piss this guy up, but you're gonna have to let me out and call the cops. Hey! What are you doing?
Angelina and McAvoy there, and as you can tell, there are bullets whizzing, there are cars are flying, there's traffic whizzing past them. It's a wild ride. I will say that, an absolutely wild ride. But it is grisly, it is nasty, it features one of my favourite ever uses of a Nine Inch Nails song, and it's got a pretty nifty role in there for an almost, blink and you'll forget him, Chris Pratt as well.
Wow, young gun Chris Pratt, like early years. I feel like I'm saying something like it's like an infant in this. I feel like this is a lot older of a movie than it actually is. I'm not sure when it came out, but it's
2008, I believe. I think it was August in 2008.
10 years ago.
June or August 2008, yeah.
Interesting. Okay, all right. Well, that one, again, as we said, is ITV4, 11:20 p.m. Now, we mentioned her before. She's in it again, and this is the film that kind of cemented her in Hollywood royalty, in terms horror royalty, shall we say? This film is the genre-defining film of the 90s. So 1996. It's on 5-star. It's 11:25 p.m. It can only be what, Van?
I'm going to like the clip. See if you can tell us.
I think it's her father. Why can't they find her pops, man? Because he's probably dead. His body will come popping up in the last reel somewhere. Eyes gouged out, fingers cut off, teeth knocked out. See, the police are always off track with If they'd watch Prom Night, they'd save time. There's a formula to it. A very simple formula. Everybody's a suspect.
That's right, it's Jamie Kennedy. It can only be Scream, can't it? But of course, Jamie Kennedy is not the breakout star who became, very briefly, the next Jamie Lee Curtis. We're, of course, talking about Neve Campbell, who was in The Craft earlier, and is phenomenal here as well. But this also, of course, stars Skeet Ulrich as well. So both Skeet Ulrich and Neve Campbell are in both The Craft and Scream.
Should we just ignore the fact that Skeet Ulrich's in this? Should we just leave that?
I would rather fixate on the fact that Matthew Lillard is in this because he's phenomenal in Scream. I'm feeling kind of woozy.
I do like Matthew Lillard in this, but do you know what? Like if you've ever sort of reinvested yourself into horror, you can't ignore the first 10 minutes of this movie. This was Drew Barrymore's comeback. This was her, her moment of iconicness in this beyond E.T. I mean, that opener just made suddenly everyone want to go and see this film at the cinema.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Because the trope of you, because obviously it's very known, it's not really a spoiler of the opening scene of this film, is let's put Drew Barrymore forward, we do the classic horror sequence of, I'm taunting you over the phone, there's, a brutal chase sequence and death. But that, of course, is so rooted within the horror genre. Let's take the biggest star off them early on, and it takes you right back to Psycho in 1960. Yeah. Let's get Janet Leigh, and we'll put her front and centre, and then we'll offer, and she, in fact, won't be the lead, and that's the whole thing. So you think, initially, if you've never seen the film, you think, oh, this is Drew Barrymore's movie, and then the rug gets pulled 10 minutes into this 100-minute long legend. And of course, it's all Neve Campbell and Rose McGowan and Jamie Kennedy and Skeet Ulrich.
All those witches, Rose McGowan from Charmed and Neve Campbell from The Craft. Suddenly they become just murder hunters in this. I mean, yeah, it's brilliant, and it fits that teen genre as well, really well. It opens up horror to a whole new audience. And to be honest, the horror genre in itself is something that is so hard to keep doing well that you have to kind of find something different. And when this came along, it completely redefined it.
Well, that's it. Like you say, of the horror genre, every 5 or so years, there is always a mainstream benchmark film, or a film that becomes mainstream, then becomes a benchmark, that redefines where the genre is tonally for that moment, spawns a series of imitators, cash-ins, homages, things like that. Scream was very much one of those moments, and led to the sort of resurrection, the revival of teen horror in sort of mid to late 1990s, gave us things like I Know What You Did Last Summer, Urban Legend, loads of imitators and knockoffs, things like Cherry Falls, which is a personal favourite of mine, Disturbing Behaviour.
It's teens, and then, of course, in a horror scenario. That's just the very basics of the mechanics of it and why it works so well.
Absolutely, yeah. So, what have we got then for Thursday? Let's move on to something a bit more IRL, something a bit more stranger than fiction, something documentarian, we shall say. Should we talk about The Imposter, which is on Channel 4 at 10:05 on Thursday night. This was a really disturbing documentary. Did you see this?
I did see this, and I remember getting into a bit of a conversation with another critic actually over it, because it was hyped. It was really hyped, and I loved the story. And there was another one which had just come out on Channel 4, in fact. There was a different documentary, completely different scenario. And the way that was formatted, I was really gripped by. And then I just thought the power of a documentary is so brilliant if you get it really right. And so The Imposter, you then kind of get into the field where this actually was something that I think brought up award buzz about it. It was that much taken off. It wasn't just like a popular zeitgeisty kind of documentary. It was one of those ones that pre-Netflix, pre-Making a Murder, pre all that kind of stuff, it just made an impact.
It's a blue cover document. It's a blue tint cover documentary, you see, and blue tint cover documentaries always get awards buzz. So, Blackfish, The Imposter, and Citizen 4, case in point, if you've got a blue tint on that documentary cover, you may well get some awards buzz. But this is, of course, the story of a young boy who is a true story. Young boy went missing. His family had no idea where he was for years and years. One day, someone turned up claiming to be said boy, only instead of being American, he was now French. His eyes were a different colour, his hair was a different colour. Nobody believed for 1 second it was the same kid, except for the family, who ignored every possible contradiction and accepted him anyway. And of course, there had to be an investigation.
The judge insisted on separate interviews, and part of the evidence that was in those interviews was a family photo album.
And the judge said, listen, the only way for you to prove that it's you really Nicholas, we got pictures here that you've never seen before. I'm gonna show you 5 of them. Number 1, okay. Number 2, okay. Number 3, okay. And number 4, okay. On the 5th one, I made a mistake.
This is kind of like Three Identical Strangers in that it's so weird you can't believe this actually happened. But do check it out on Channel 4 on Thursday night at 10:05. I recommend seeing it just to know the story. Whether or not you like the documentary, the story is so messed up that it's just worth knowing. So Friday night, Becks, where shall we close?
We shall close on an absolute classic movie. I'm going to say the words John Coffey, and that should give you exactly what you need to know about what movie we're talking about. We're talking about The Green Mile on Film 4 at 11:10 p.m. Oh.
Your name is John Coffey.
Yes, sir, boss. Like to drink, only not spelled the same.
Oh, you can spell, can you?
Just my name, boss. J-O.
My name is Paul Edgecombe. If I'm not here, you can ask for Mr. Terwilliger, Mr. Howell, or Mr. Stanton, these gentlemen right there. Questions?
Do you leave the light on after bedtime? 'Cause I get a little scared in the dark sometimes. If it's a strange place.
Is exactly right. I know you hear that clip, like the drink, but spelled different.
Oh,
I'm just
goodness
like,
me.
Man, do you know, this has been made even sadder by the fact that Michael Clark Duncan went and died on us.
I know.
Like, I miss Michael Clark Duncan now.
Great actor. And again, another brilliant turn from Tom Hanks. I mean, that man knows how to choose a movie.
He does. He knows how to get you crying, and The Green Mile, I think, absolutely proves that. I think if you don't cry at The Green Mile, you have no soul.
You have got a heart of stone. I mean, this again, another combination of, it's like the Shawshank Redemption. There's just something in it which is beautifully filmed, incredibly acted. It gives you something different, but at a gentle pace. And it's not something that is like fast and exciting, but it's just slow, but it gets your soul. And that's what's the beauty
Absolutely.
of it. Yeah.
And of course, because I'm a big fan of Stephen King, and I'd read the Shawshank Redemption before I saw the film. I'd read Green Mile before I saw the film. And one of the things that genuinely irks me to this day is that for some reason, despite the fact that it's made by the same studio, written by the same guy, directed by the same guy, for some reason, this adaptation of The Green Mile is not set in Shawshank Prison. It's set in a different prison. In the books, it is in Shawshank, and there is a mention of Andy Dufresne. So, Stephen King was doing that whole cinematic universe thing before it was cool, and he was doing it in books. But Green Mile, absolutely check it out. And also, shout out for Doug Hutchinson from The X-Files, played Toombs in The X-Files, who plays Percy in this one.
Yeah.
And, oh, wow, he's played to perfection. I'd have given that man an Oscar buzz for this one. He's so perfectly awful. But Green Mile, I think that's the perfect way to end a week.
And we're continuing your off-screen move into the world of movies, but through DVD and Blu-ray and, of course, streaming. And we've got a huge selection for you this week, all available from Monday, the 25th of May. We're going to kick off with a movie that we love because it's such a brilliant comeback for both Martin Lawrence and also Will Smith. It is Bad Boys for Life. Loved this, didn't we?
Well, I mean, we must love it, because we've talked about this many times now. We talked about it when it was theatrical, we talked about it when it was on digital. I think we'll talk about it again when it's on streaming, no doubt. But I really love Bad Boys for Life. I thought it was a really great sequel. For my money, it was a perfect halfway point between the overblown sensibilities of the second movie and the more comedic, concept-driven elements of the first one. I think it had a lot more of the humour of the first one that I relied on.
Very, very funny. Yeah, absolutely. And also, there's already been talks about doing another follow-up as well. So,
there is,
obviously done something right.
And don't forget, of course, there's a spin-off TV series that's now entering its second series as well, LA's Finest, in which Gabrielle Union's character goes off on her own adventures in LA and has a cantankerous partner of her own, played by Jessica Alba. And, of course, the big thing that ties those together as far as the lore goes is that you get Ernie Hudson as Grandpa Burnett. Great-Grandpa Burnett, of course, now that Bad Boys for Life has come out. Weirdly, he looks younger than Martin Lawrence now, but, we'll get over that.
We'll get over that one. Right, now, next on our list is a film that you were not so sure about. I remember this, and I actually didn't see it as a result. So it's Just Mercy. You said something like it's like a 90s Sunday afternoon movie. That's what you didn't like about it.
No. I believe I didn't say. I think actually I said it was an afternoon made-for-TV movie that happens to be set in the 90s, but you wouldn't notice that unless you were paying attention. And it's the standard To Kill a Mockingbird tale, based on a true story. Fair enough. Stars Michael B. Jordan, stars Brie Larson, stars Jamie Foxx. It's written and directed by Daniel Destin Cretton, who's doing Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings for Marvel now, which terrifies me because this is not a good movie. His last movie, I forget which one that was, wasn't very good. I like Short Term 12. That was fine. That was pretty good. This, less so, but you know what? It's hitting all of those requisite boilerplate awards movie trailer markers. Have a listen.
It is ordered, adjudged, and decreed that Walter McMillan is to face death by electrocution.
This is my dad, sir.
Sit down, young man.
John, I want you to sit down now. He ain't do nothing wrong. Please, Judge, hold on one second.
I won't say it again. Sit down.
Not if you gonna kill my dad for no reason. You killing my family, sir,
You know what I mean? It's a movie of monologues and speeches. It is one of those. I didn't really go for it. Yeah, very televisual. This feels like a made-for-streaming movie, definitely.
Fair enough. Well, it might float your boat or it might not, as if your name is Van Connor. So, moving very quickly on to something that launched in the cinemas at Christmas time, was a big hit in awards season. It's reignited a wonderful story. It is, of course, Little Women for the new generation. This, for me, I really enjoyed it. I was a massive fan of the original kind of not the original, but the Susan Sarandon, the Winona Ryder version, the Christian Bale version. That I absolutely loved. But I really liked the spin that this movie has on it. And it features a lot of flashbacks, some good performances from Saoirse Ronan, Emma from Harry Potter, because I can't remember her name right now. But you know who I'm talking about.
Emma Watson.
Emma Watson, that's the one.
Emma from Harry Potter.
I just had Emma Thompson in my head, and I have no idea how to get rid of that, but you know who I mean. Yeah, it's a good old film, and it's one for the girls, I think, Little Women, as you can imagine.
I think it'll fly off the shelves on DVD. I think this will actually be quite a high seller. One that I'm not as confident about on DVD is Vivarium, which has been released this week. This was put out on digital quite early during lockdown. Is of course the story of a couple played by Imogen Poots and Jesse Eisenberg. I always say Aaron Eisenberg. Jesse Eisenberg, who move into find themselves forced to move into a mysterious house in the suburbs from which they cannot escape. It is Black Mirror-style mayhem. It is Twilight Zone-level chicanery. Tell you what, here's a sampling.
Yonder is a wonderful development. Both tranquil and practical, it has all you'd need and all you'd want. And as for the prices, it's no wonder these houses are getting snapped up. I know what you guys are thinking. Suburbia. But there's more to Yonder than what you see in these images. We've lovely people, all sorts of people ready to move in. It's going to be a diverse community. Something different, a nice blend.
Where's it located?
Near enough. And far enough. Just the right distance.
it's a little creepy. And also,
I can't
again,
think about it again.
it would have been funnier before lockdown. I'm not going to lie. Watching this during lockdown was a bit. That was very trying.
It's an interesting watch. It's one that I think if you find Black Mirror more disturbing than entertaining, you definitely don't want to endure over an hour and a half of this.
And of course, disturbing and entertaining is the watchword for our last film, and I'm very, very happy to say that this has finally gotten a UK DVD release, and it is, of course, Bong Joon-ho's 2013 sci-fi dystopian epic. It is Snowpiercer. The timing of this is based entirely on the fact that Parasite did very well. It had been buried under the Harvey Weinstein rubble. He had the act out for this film for a long time, and of course, the TV series, the TV adaptation, starts on Netflix this next week. I've seen the first episode. I can tell you it is worth watching. It does do something different, and it does sit halfway between the book and the film adaptation in terms of what to expect. The film is incredible. All-star cast: Chris Evans, John Hurt, Tilda Swinton, Jamie Bell. A couple that I won't tell you for spoiler reasons. Phenomenal film. Absolutely check this out. And if you can check it out ahead of seeing the TV series and you want to see a different interpretation that's all done in one big go, definitely check this movie out. It's one of my favourite films of all time. I think it's the best film of the last decade. Absolutely see Snowpiercer.
Well, I might go and watch it after that recommendation. And also, I'm not sure if we'll ever get through an off-screen without you mentioning it in some way, shape or form.
Do I mention Snowpiercer a lot? I've never noticed.
A lot, yeah, funnily enough. But
have I ever mentioned that it's a bit good?
Yeah, maybe, just a bit. I still haven't seen it because I don't believe anything that Dan says, really. But you lot can prove me wrong. Well, that is quite a list for DVD and Blu-ray. Should we move on to some streaming? Because this is all on Amazon Prime from Sunday, May 24th. So you've got another good big batch of things to watch here, kicking off with, I actually really enjoyed this, Mad Max Fury Road. Do you enjoy this?
Yes, Fury Road I think is an absolute classic. We were talking earlier about Jodie Comer potentially being cast as young Furiosa for the prequel-sequel thing that George Miller's doing. This is a phenomenal film. Tom Hardy, of course, as the new Mad Max. But of course, he's playing second fiddle to Furiosa, as played by Charlize Theron. How there was no Oscar nomination in this one for Charlize Theron astounds me. It's a hell of a performance.
Yeah, it really is. I also think that she's possibly stepping down from this because there was a lot of chat about her and Tom Hardy just not getting on during production for this.
Which they've been quite upfront about, and they have said a lot of that is to do with the circumstances of filming. It's a very tough production. You're in the desert. You don't know quite what you're doing, which is fine. It's a film unlike any other. You have to imagine you'd have no idea what it was you were filming. But of course, speaking of having no idea what you were filming, Passengers leaps to mind.
You'll have no idea what you're watching either.
Well, the thing with Passengers is this was a script that had sat on the blacklist for a couple of years. It had been declared to be, one of the best unproduced scripts in Hollywood. It finally got made by Morton Tilden, who had made The Intimidation Game. Starred Jennifer Lawrence, Chris Pratt, who were both at the top of the height, the very pinnacle of their fame at that moment. And it was young, it was sexy, it was glossy, it was cool. It's a sci-fi tale that it turns out, when you play it back, has something of a creepy undertone that proves problematic, and audiences do shy away from that. So they maybe should have thought that one through. But of course, escaping controversy entirely, one last pick for Amazon Prime that's being unleashed on Sunday. This is going to be one from your childhood years, from your childhood vault, as it is mine, Becks. It's Richie Rich.
Yes, and who doesn't want a McDonald's in their house? I mean, if you have one...
I wouldn't survive.
If you have one big takeaway from that movie, it's that. And takeaway, yes, is kind of the key word in that. What a brilliant film. Macaulay Culkin, again, talking about the height of his fame. This is like, just post Home Alone. Let's get him doing other cool stuff. And again, he created another iconic, nostalgic movie. Richie Rich, be the richest kid on the block, or in fact, in the world. And you've got everything at your feet, but it's not all about the money that you make.
Oh, it's about the friends you make along the way. And this film is actually nicely positioned in about 1994 when you could get away with that level of hokiness. So... yeah. Yeah, it's still technically a classic, so you can revisit Richie Rich, as indeed I will be when it arrives on Amazon Prime, along with Mad Max Fury Road and Passengers on Sunday, May the 24th. So there's 3 great films there for you to see. I mean, I personally quite like Passengers, despite how problematic it truly is.
Yeah.
But you can make your own mind up. At the very least, it's sexy looking.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say.
Look,
It's sexy looking.
all I'm going to say about the entire selection that we've got for you this week, and it astounds me week on week that we've got such great picks, given that we're all in lockdown, is just don't listen to Van. I'm not sure that he really likes Snowpiercer. I think he's just kind of doing it for some attention-seeking purposes.
Am I underselling Snowpiercer?
Am
I not selling it well enough?
Yeah, you're not selling it well enough. But, guys, if you are after that big release that you managed to miss at the cinema and now you want to catch it on your small screen, you can do it on digital now, and our recommendation for that would definitely be Queen and Slim for you. You've got an incredible 90s selection on movies on TV this week as well, so check out The Craft. You've got Scream there as well, and also Wanted for something a little bit silly. And then again, on your DVDs, your Blu-rays and your streaming, you've got a huge selection there as well. It's been a good week.
It has, and most importantly, it did give us not only a Nev Campbell double bill, it gave us a Skeet Ulrich double
Stop
bill.
it. Let's end this
Starring
now.
both of
Let's
them
just end
at
this
the
now.
same time. I'm just saying, that's cinematic perfection right there, which I think brings us to the end of this week, Miss Perfect.
It does indeed.
There's only one last thing to say, and that's this has been Off Screen. I've been Van Connor.
And I've been Becks Perfect. We'll do it all again next week.